Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Christmas, to the Trig podcast of joy on this Christmas season. Ghost of TV, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to this video, to this live podcast on this beautiful Friday already, right? Friday, December the 6th, 2019, 25 days before Christmas Eve and a new year, a new decade. What have you done for me lately? What have you been up to this last decade? So I'm 50. When I was 40, 10 years ago, what was your life like 10 years ago? If you're in your 60s, if you're in your 30s, what were you like when you were 25, when you were 15? And how have you changed for the better? I think that if I was to be honest, a lot of me is still the same, good and bad. I think I have become more resilient because as pain and trials come your way, then we have to get stronger. And I think that maybe is the greatest gift of aging is strength, courage. Also, yeah, physical stuff, no bueno, right? We all know that. It's not the same working out at 50 than working out at 30, obviously. It's just not the same. But life is good and getting better, as my friend Cliff says. And I think he's right. Life is good and getting better, regardless of politics, regardless of your bank account. I am sure that your life is good and getting better. Even if you are going through a trial, I have many friends that are experiencing, dealing with cancer, dealing with all kinds of physical and mental disease. And even if, this is, I know, sad to say, but even if life ends, if you know Jesus, life is good and getting better because you will be with him for eternity in heaven. And so, but I was thinking about how to love truly, how to genuinely love, how to know if you really love somebody. How do you know if you really love your wife? How do you know if you really love your children or your parents? And you might say, well, it's a feeling, or it's the actions, or it's a responsibility, or I've been married for 10 years, or maybe you go more towards your actions. I change the oil in my wife's car, or I celebrate my parents' anniversary every year. Or maybe you say, I give them gifts and think about them all the time. But I feel like love is something that is not easy. For me, I can say I love a lot of things. I can love that light and this hat and this computer without really feeling it or without truly thinking about it. And sometimes that's good, but that can also be dangerous. So in the area, let's say with my beautiful wife, I think that love, now 25 years in for us, is of course still about attraction, about affection, about service, about common goals. But I would say that love between my wife and I is now the shared life. The more seasons that we go through, from the early years and learning what side of the bed we slept on in our first few months, few weeks, to having our first child and the joy of that, to the shock of having teens, to now being in our 50s or for her late 40s and leading, and the challenges of leadership and of exhaustion, mostly because of our jobs now, right? I think that the reason why I know that I love my wife is because of what she has done in my life. The more that I age, I realize that she has saved my life. When I was in my 20s and I met her, I was lost. I was dating a lot. I was lost in terms of my family of origin, not really sure who I was. I was lost in terms of immigration and I guess you could call fear. I was I was like a ship without a master or a captain. I had faith in Jesus, and yet even that part of my life was not exactly the centerpiece. It was important. It's always been. But Rochelle was the person who in many ways made sense of it all for me. She helped me to bring it all together. I always think of Mr. Potato Head. I grew up with that. If you're an 80s kid, right? Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head and Toy Story. But I feel like that's exactly who I was when I met my lovely wife, when she was 21 and I was a young 23-year-old. Babies. And when I saw those beautiful blue eyes and that lovely smile, I still have her picture right here next to me on my desk. And I was shocked by the purity, the wholeness. It sounds like I'm talking about a milkshake. I don't know why I said that. But I think you know what I mean. Compared to my life, which was all over the place, her straight and narrow saved my life. Saved me emotionally, spiritually, physically, morally, mentally. I would not parent. I would not know how to parent if not for my wife. I would not know how to get through the emotional ups and downs of being a creative and empath if not for my wife. I would be a mess in ministry, with friends, with my family if not for my wife, Rochelle. Our children, I would hate to imagine what our children would be like if not for my wife's parenting, her background. And I'm not saying that I had a horrible background. I had a great upbringing. My beautiful parents, my amazing grandmother. But as I said, in my teens, when I began to kind of wander, I didn't have that guidance until Rochelle reminded me of who I really was and what I really had growing up. She saved me. She brought wholeness back into my life. It was there, but it was just adrift. And so when I think of my wife now, my lovely wife, Rochelle, and I think of why I love her now, as I mentioned, almost 25 years in, of course, the attraction, the love, all those things are there. Although that changes, of course, because, I'm an older man now. And so, but it's deeper, I would say, because of the shared experience, and I begin to recognize her role in my life, what she means to me. And I can't help but think that she saved my life. And when I look at our 3 teens, or young adults now, 2 of them are teens, and I see how normal they are, how beautiful they are, how just amazing they are, I think of my wife, Rochelle. And of course, I'm not demeaning myself, putting myself down. I know that we're a team, and obviously God brings us both together. I know I'm a spiritual leader in her life and in the lives of our children. I know I am the crazy empath, creative type who wants to change the world and all that. And I know that that's been very important to our family. And that's what Rochelle loves about me, kind of the wild man in me. But I think together is where the magic happens. And so if you are a young person and you're thinking, how do I find the right man, the right woman? I would say, I know not everyone likes this word, but I think it's luck, meaning God has to bring that person into your life. How did it happen that I walked into this office and there she was as the secretary of this church that I worked at when I was 22, 23? That was just fate, the grace of God, luck, blessing from God, all of it. But then I think after that happens, then you have to make some decisions. I had to leave everything else behind. I had to focus. I had to choose my wife. I had to say yes to her. And I think that if you're a younger person, You have to learn how to say no and say no to the bad things in your life and say yes to the right things. Even though I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have anyone coaching me. And now, of course, you have so much guidance on YouTube or videos or actual coaches and therapists and all that. But back then, it was just me and my Holy Spirit. And then when I brought Rochelle to my grandma's apartment where I lived with her, and my grandma met her, and I could see the smile on my grandma's face, I knew that it was okay, that it was going to be okay. So you have to choose what you want. You have to decide what is important to you. I think the third thing is you have to, as I said, have shared experiences. You have to get in your body when it comes to love. I think one of my greatest challenges or weaknesses is that I'm not in my body enough. I'm in my head so much, trying to just be logical or reasonable or maybe block my true emotions because I'm afraid of the emotions of them being anger or just mundane or silly emotions, instead of realizing that being in the moment, as it said, or being present is the essence of life. The other day I was sitting across the table from a friend who was almost in tears. It was a male, a man my age. And before that, we were just talking business and numbers and things, just logical stuff. But in that moment, when he almost broke down, it helped me to like snap out of my little logical zone that I was in. And it touched my heart. And even though I had a hard time going down there myself to my gut feelings for him, this is a person I love dearly, a friend of mine, a man I love and respect tremendously. It snapped me out of my little plan that I had. And I think that those moments are very important in life. We have to snap out of the routine or the mode. And that's why vacations are important. Or if you're married, dating, I try to date my wife twice a month. We go out to a nice restaurant. We go on little mini trips. We go on vacation. We pray every morning. We talk all the time, always trying to do the right thing to do things that will center, especially me, my body with her, not just my thoughts, but my presence, to be present with her. And I think that love requires presence. You have to be present. Now, a lot of people are afraid of that because of conflict and a lot of problems, or your husband doesn't talk, or your boyfriend, you're afraid he's cheating on you. But that's all part of the risk of love. You have to be willing to take that risk and to bring up those things and to say, do you love me? Am I the only one? Are you, this is something I ask myself a lot, and Rochelle in many ways, I ask her, do you accept me as I am? I even wrote a whole CD, a whole record called How Do You Feel? Meaning, how do you feel about me? This is a question I ask life, God, people, and I'm getting better at this because I don't think we need to ask that of everyone, but I ask Rochelle that basically every day. And that's important because it's vulnerability. It's Adam and Eve being, quote, naked and yet unashamed. You have to find those moments as a couple, even with friends, where you are unashamed to ask, do you love me? Do you take me as I am? Even if I am at my worst, and obviously she's seen me at my worst, do you still love me as I am? I mean, that is love. That is, and that's not just for the bedroom or just for marriage. That's for everything in life, with your parents, with your friends, with your siblings, even with the people that you work with. Do you love me as I am? Will you take me, accept me as I am, a year in, 3 years in, now that you've seen the ugliness, the bad hair, the over zealous parts of me, the weight gain, or whatever it may be that you feel ashamed of. Will you take me as I am? I mean, that's true with God, obviously, but certainly when it comes to intimacy and love, these things are what matters. These things are what matters. These are the things that make a marriage succeed. 25 years in for us, and we're working on our next 25. And you may say, well, that's old fashioned, or that was easier back then. Now no one gets married. Now people don't trust. Yeah, I see that. But I don't think love is out of season. People still are buying love, movies, songs, addictions, pornography, affairs. That's buying love. That's what basically that is. You're buying love. You're trying to find love in all the wrong places. So I know that love is still in. Otherwise, Drake wouldn't be a millionaire. And so if you want love, then I would encourage you to be vulnerable. Don't stop being vulnerable. It would be easy for my wife and I at 25 years in, now in our, as I said, as adults, to stop being vulnerable and stop asking for what we really want. But that's what you have to resist. You have to, even if you're in your teens or 18 or 20, you have to resist the temptation to hide from your partner. Even though it may feel safe in the moment, it's damaging long term. And that's what Adam and Eve discovered. I tell my wife everything when I feel like I'm losing my mind, my hair, or my job. You know, when she sees me going off the rails, she tells me. Are there things that we need to go deeper on? Yes, of course. I think we sometimes get into these bad habits of just, okay, well, I didn't do the dishes again. It's okay. No, I think we have to always press into those things that we need from each other. But what has helped us tremendously and what we're always pursuing is honesty, authenticity, genuineness. A while back, we wrote these bookmarks of the top 10 things that we need from each other. And that was maybe, a while back. Guess what? I read those things like a couple days ago. Her list, the same things. Nothing has changed. Same thing with my list. I thought, wow, this is from like way back in the day. I still want the same things from her. And she wants the same things from me. Yeah, so it may not be Target anymore, but it might be another store that she wants my help with, to go grocery shopping with her. It's one of the things that she needs from me. And guess what? That does not change. Never. No matter how much money, how many kids, or where you live or whatever, she still needs that core value of come with me and let's do this together. For me, it's companionship, the same thing. Be happy when I preach a message, even though I thought it was horrible, but tell me that you love me. Yeah, maybe some of the context or the wording may change a little bit after years or year after year, but the emotion remains the same. And that's what's beautiful about relationships. And so maybe you're a young married couple, you're maybe 2 years in, 3 years in, 5 years, you have your first baby, maybe even thinking of a second one here in the next 3-4 years. God forbid, right? This is the time, my young couple, to go deeper. Yeah, maybe now you're struggling, you're seeing each other for who you really are. This is a time to get even more honest about what you need, even though it's painful at first. And that's why I offer free coaching, davidtrig.com/free coaching. I would love to help you in your pursuit of authenticity. Make sure you leave me a comment. Let me know how I can help you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.